Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. This is, I think, episode number 10. So, we've done a few of these at this point. We're professionals. Let's see how this goes. I have a hat in front of me, and I'm going to attempt to pull one out and read it directly without reading it first and then going, oh, okay. So this will be a first. Oh, man, I just spilled all of them on the floor. All right, here we go. Oh, gosh. Death, dying, and other significant loss, navigating through grief without alcohol.
Wow.
There's a light topic for today. Yeah.
That's a great one. That'll make us all feel better.
Did any Monday?
Did any of you put that one in? No? Okay. I did have a question of death, dying, or other significant loss. Is there a difference between death, dying?
I guess the death of somebody else versus your own demise being
interesting. Okay.
Or as you're grieving, as you're waiting for someone in hospice or whatever, there's a whole grief process there as well as you're anticipating that.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do we want to start on this one?
Maybe why not? Maybe, what have we experienced as a benefit to not, using drugs during those kinds of events?
Oh, like grieving without alcohol? Yeah. Yeah. I think, so I shared this on Annie's I talked about this a lot on Annie's podcast on how when my dad passed away, he was at the age of 56. So I don't know how old I was, but I was definitely drinking a lot at that time. And even, he was in the hospital, and a friend's mom actually had to call me and say, hey, do you realize this is bad enough that you need to come home? And I hadn't, because they hadn't really told me. But even being there and then, experiencing that death and then coming back and kind of just jumping back in my life, I never felt that I grieved, right? I just kind of probably buried it all inside of like, okay, my dad's gone. And it wasn't until a few years ago when my mom passed away and I had been, without anything for a long time that this is to Judy's point as well, I got to be there even during the hospice stage and a lot of the assisted living stage. And like I think of this now as like some of the most beautiful times I ever had with my mom. And the grieving for that was hard, but I was so much more open maybe to, and this so much more appreciative and grateful for the experience that I got to have with her and how much deeper our relationship got that it's one of the highlights of my life, being able to spend those last few years with her. So like my view on this is very jaded. Just how tough it is to grieve, but with alcohol, I don't know that you're truly allowing yourself maybe to grieve in some cases.
I would say probably one of the first times I can remember like using alcohol to avoid grief. I was probably mid-20s, I guess. and a friend of mine died suddenly. And, I was certainly not in a place of maturity to understand like what I was doing, but also feeling this. I mean, so he died, and I just didn't even know what to do with that, and so and I was in the service at the time, so also we weren't really, it was not encouraged to feel your feelings. Let's just put it that way. And so I just, drank all weekend, to kind of like avoid it, and just the like disconnected feeling that fostered, it was like already I didn't know what to do with these feelings, but then, like just drinking it away just felt so weird. Like, but you don't know what else to do. So that's just what you're doing. So yeah, I can attest to the fact that alcohol doesn't make it feel any better. It just makes you feel doubly worse, I guess. It's just, you have the grief, and then also the
shame.
Like, some shame of, well, physically you feel like crap, and two, that this isn't the way to cope with it, so there's some amount of shame, and then thirdly, this just like also this feeling of being disconnected with yourself, and it's just like this, and then of course all of that once especially when you're immature, like all that just makes you want to drink more, because that's the only way you know how to like make it feel better. Yeah.
Well, and to your point, Kori, it's kind of like, I think back to the days when I was heavy drug using and I had friends overdose, right? And I think back, oh my gosh, they overdosed, and the pain is so immense because, that could be me, but you keep using anyway. Well, because you're so wrapped up in the problem of it. And I think what happens is, obviously, it stops the natural process. Grief is a natural process. And when we use substances, no matter what they are, it stunts that. And then you're constantly chasing the tail, if you will, because you numb out in the beginning, and then it's like, oh my gosh. And so you feel a little bit of it. And so you just keep doing this hamster wheel because you're just trying to run away from that pain, as opposed to just saying, all right, here it is, I'm going to hurt. And my experience has been, because I've been both sides of the coin, and a lot of my internship was sitting with people as they die, which was the most honorable. I can't even tell you a bigger honor in my life than to actually be with someone as they're transitioning to the other side, and just to watch how people manage it, and how some people run out of the room, and pretty soon you find them, who knows what they're doing, just to numb from it. And then other people just collapse. There's a lot of ways you can escape that pain. But, we all know, right? And that's what we talk about. The joy of not using or not drinking or anything. It's joyful. Like Brian, with you got to be with your mom. And I think as we're leaving our body, as we're dying and leaving everything, there is a component of relationship that really becomes spiritual. And that no matter what you believe in, we are human, which makes us body, mind, and spirit, right? So that spiritual component connects differently as one person's leaving us. For me, it did anyway. When my dad died and I was there, and when my gram died and I was there, but I just think it's the most hard, difficult thing you'll ever do in your life. And it's a process, but if you delay that process with substance, it's just going to be harder.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question. To what extent, and this is for anybody, do you think that part of the reason we look for numbing or distraction is that, like, we also think we're not supposed to like grieve that hard or like be sad, or in some ways it's always, I mean, even now, I have a hard time, like, I almost feel like I have to justify to myself to feel things, right? Like, oh, I'm allowed to be sad now, And so I wonder if that's what some people are trying to avoid, is like feeling okay with being sad and going through grief and being allowed, being a person.
Well, I think you hit on that early when you said, like, until you experience that, the feeling is I don't know how to say this, but like the feeling, the sadness, the feeling of the grief removes so much of that regret and shame that you have if you just bury it. That's what I found. Like I forever carried with me this shame of not, like, being in the room and telling my dad that I loved him before he passed away. Like, that was something that I had always carried with myself. And that shame was brought about because I was outside smoking cigarettes or drinking or doing anything to avoid being in that room and feeling. And I think until I realized that, no, that feeling is where all the kind of goodness comes from, then you stop wanting to hide from it so much. I still want to hide from it a lot. Mm-hmm. But I think you almost have to do it once or twice, right? To be like, oh, that sucked. Mm-hmm. But now I don't know, there's some happiness, or I don't know what the word is for that, but like, it just feels good to do it. I mean, yeah. I don't know what that is, to like sit in the sadness and understand it and learn more about why it's there, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, it never goes away.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Like, it's always going to be there. It becomes a part of your life. So it's the sooner that you're able to accept it and let it go through you, then it doesn't hurt as much. Then you can see it. Like, there's so many different stages of grief. And I think that that's one of the biggest things, is that grief is not the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At all. So every single time you grieve, it doesn't matter. It'll never be the same as the grief that you felt with a different person passing, or like, it's never the same. Whereas maybe some of the other emotions that we feel, like happiness, it's very similar. So there's that similar feeling, but with grief, you just don't know how it is. Yeah. So I've had quite a bit. 2019 was the biggest year that I had to experience grief, because my father-in-law, he passed away, and we were there to watch him. The whole family was there. And again, it's like, prior to all of that happening, my husband and I, we would fill up cups and we would Uber to the hospital at 2 a.m, pissed drunk, with more wine in our cups. And we would sit there and cry by his bedside. That's what we would do. And wake up in the morning and you feel like crap. So there was no actual quality time that I feel like, if I was to go back, my God, I would have never done that. I would have sat there with him, hold his hand and comfort him, not him feeling my sadness, because he's the one who has to leave. And I would ask to talk about stories. Tell me about this. Yep. Tell me about, I would maybe record it all, or I don't know, but it would, choosing to numb that pain, I feel, was very selfish of me, because, and I feel a lot of regret, because I didn't get that opportunity with him when I could have, because I couldn't stop it from happening, and it's a part of life. So I had to do that. And then a few months later, my best friend's mom had an aneurysm. So I didn't have that opportunity. So I was in the room there as well. And she was like my second mom. So that was really hard. And again, there was I couldn't ask those questions, but what would I do? I would drink, because it's like, this is all happening to me. So the alcohol brings up all the negative feelings. That's what it did for me. So there was no thinking about the positive. It's about what I'm not going to have. Like, I just spiraled into such a negative thing that was the hardest part, instead of looking at the positive and understanding or accepting. So again, it's the same thing. It's not being there. And then those feelings don't go away. So you have to go through them. You have to accept them, but they're very different, very, very different. So, and you'll never be okay with them. And then with the drinking, I felt like I grieved myself, because I wasn't the same person. So it's like those feelings came up. So of course, the first thing I wanted to do was drink, bring them. So it's really interesting how you can choose how you want to cope or deal. You could find grief in anything, really.
Yeah, anytime you're leaving something behind, or it's leaving you, or big changes.
So we experience it all the time. We could experience that feeling of grief daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the case may be, whenever there's a change. So maybe not, it's not making it, I guess, not looking at it as it's some really scary thing, but more of we can do this. We do it all the time, different, and it will always be different.
And I think it's who taught us how to grieve.
Yeah.
Like, right? I mean, I think grief is an absolute thing of being taught. You look at different culture, how different cultures address people's passing. In some cultures, it's complete rejoicing. Yeah, we'll miss them. But look, I mean, I like the fact that instead, oh, they're dying, they're gone, blah, blah, now they do celebrations of life kind of thing, which they never did when I was growing up. It was like, what was that? But I mean, and I think it's imperative that parents, like when people lose a pet, like look at the real grieving. My grandnephew, he lost his little kitty. Oh my goodness. Like the kitty was sick, and that poor kid was so sad. But my niece handled it beautifully and talked about the naturalness of life and the processes, and your feelings are real. And now he talks about it. And to your point, Agnes, I think it stays with us if we don't process it. So sometimes some of the grief that I never processed will come up as I'm doing journaling, or as I'm looking at pictures, right? I'll be looking at family pictures or something. And where I may have not been completely present, I have to still process all those emotions. Once I do, it releases that natural process that I never allowed before, if that makes sense.
For sure. And that's an interesting thing, Judi. I've been working through something like this with my therapist. The same sort of thing of like my parents lost a child before me. And I didn't know that until a little later, but when they had me, they were still going through a deep grieving process, right? And so much of how they were to me and what I saw them going through was a result of that grieving process that I didn't know about. But then so I inherited that how to grieve kind of through them, like you're saying, and even, I remember a time when my dad's mother died, and I was like walking through, how in a Catholic service you walk up and past and come back through the family, and I like smiled for some reason, and boy, he did not like that, because it was like you're saying, it was a time for sorrow. And it's so different from my mom's. We had a celebration of life, and so many in that community were like, what in the hell are you doing? What is this? But it was exactly what she wanted, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think people also forget is like, this isn't about what you want for them. It's what they wanted people to experience and how they wanted to be remembered. Mm-hmm. But man, that grief can carry, like you're saying, Agnes, it doesn't go away, and even sometimes carries down from generation to generation.
Well, and you got to be kind to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody, even if we've been taught, this is how you do it, just the whole bit, like Kori was saying, how we accept, we're allowed, we have these feelings. It's okay to be happy. We can allow ourselves that emotion, but I mean, I was raised too, you don't cry.
Yeah.
You don't cry. Mm-hmm. You don't cry. And it took me a lot of years to figure out it's okay to cry.
Mm-hmm. This episode is sponsored by The Path by This Naked Mind. It's a year-long program that combines expert guidance, daily support, and a connected community to help you take back control of your drinking so that you can wake up without regret, trust yourself again, and live a life that doesn't revolve around alcohol. Unlike the programs that focus on your behavior alone, The Path helps you eliminate the desire to drink using science-backed content, world-class coaching, and a compassionate community that really, truly gets it. So you can feel confident and in control of your relationship with alcohol without shame, without rules, and without missing out on the things that matter most. And in 2025, support is more accessible than ever before with live online coaching calls every hour on the hour from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Saturday. No matter where you are in the world or what your day looks like, support is always there, right in your back pocket. Learn more and start your path to freedom at nakedmindpath.com.
Yeah, so with alcohol, it's, again, or any kind of substance, you're just delaying the process. You can't run away from it, no matter what it is. So that's all that really happens at that point. And then you probably end up having regret and shame and everything else to go with it because you're afraid at that point, which is, again, understandable.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering, Judi, on your in your experience where you were talking about, losing people to overdose. Was there ever a time where the celebration of their life maybe was to do the drug that they did? And I'll tell you why I bring this up is this was a dog, and I had quit drinking it was 2019 for like 8 months, and we went to a bar to pour one out for my dog, and boom, then I started drinking again. So I'm wondering if that was a common that you experienced, or any of you.
In my practice with opiates, right? Mm-hmm. 19 years of working with people with opiate dependence, I've lost quite a few people have passed because of overdose. And the stories, I don't go to the funerals, but the stories I hear from people that attended, if someone overdoses, like, I don't know, on cocaine that happened to be laced with fentanyl or something, mm-hmm. They will and they will certainly, that's how they celebrate. Whoa, let's go get some cocaine. We'll test it for fentanyl, but we're going to have a line on them. Yeah. And almost quite literally in the funeral parlor and they will do that. I mean, I did that when my friend overdosed when I was in my 20s, and she overdosed on cocaine. And I'm like, we got to go get a gram. And it's like, what are you, an idiot? They just died from this, but no, we got to do one for them. And it's like, wow. I think it's just because we don't know how to do it. Yeah,
it's like that's what they would have wanted us to do. Right. Yeah. You're like, no, probably in hindsight, they'd be like, hey, don't ever do that again, please, because I'm dead. Mm-hmm. God, isn't that baffling?
That's interesting because that's exactly, I could now just totally recall. So it's like whatever type of drink they were having. If they were Scotch drinkers, guess what? Everyone's having a shot of Scotch now. Yep. And so that becomes a whole societal thing Because obviously that, again, is generation to generation. So society somehow, somewhere it started, that this is what you need to do to honor them, is have that drink, have that whatever. And it's whatever they were drinking.
We do that with food too, right? I mean, like when my dad passed, boy, we had the baked beans, we had the homemade donuts, we had all of this mixed potpourri of foods because, Dad would have loved that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how many services, like the reception after the service, that, like you said, it's like huge bar, lots of drinking, just, lots of nasty food.
Wow, that is so interesting.
Yeah. Judi, in your experience working with people dying, did you hear, I know people always kind of list these kind of regrets or whatnot. Was there a common thread that you noticed from people? And I can tee this up a little more, but one of the things, because my dad passed away, like I said, he was 56 years old, and what that did for me is I looked at him and I said, you worked your ass off for so long saving for this retirement and this view of something that never came for you. And that's always been created some cognitive dissonance for me between like really striving for something and kind of being more present now. And I wonder if that showed up in some of the conversations that you had. Anyone can answer this, but I know Judi's been through it a lot.
I think what I hear from the people passing and the people, while those people are in that transition, the last stage, the final breathing kind of thing, while they're doing that and people look at them, that I didn't love enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do in your life. It was a matter of I didn't love enough, and time went too quickly.
Yeah.
Time went too quickly because now it's done. I can't love you anymore right now to make it better. And I think when we do that, that's because grieving in my mind is also love. Right. And like to Agnes's point, we grieve differently for different people. Well, yeah, because our relationships with people, like with our dog or, however they were in life, it's going to be magnified gazillion times because there's the hole now. Or so you think, right?
That whole thing about what people regret, the other thing and this, there's like research on this. It's been documented. Like people regret not loving enough. I mean, that's kind of a general theme, but to include themselves.
Yeah.
Like they didn't love themselves. People felt like they, didn't accept themselves, didn't love themselves, didn't live their authentic self, which prevented them from having connection with other people. Like it was all about loving themselves and then letting that, love can allow for connection with other people.
That's where I think even like what Agnes was saying about, I wish I would have like written down some of those conversations or had this or asked to be told the stories, because those are the things that, I fortunately got to hear from my mom and didn't from my dad, to be like, hey, this is what I want to tell you now. That once they're gone, you can't get it from their friends or your other family members. It can only come from them. And boy, is that stuff powerful. Should we go around the table? You want to do that real quick? This was a good one. Woof. Who wants to start this one?
I'll start. I think my takeaway is really just that this is a good reminder that grief is just a part of our lives, and to make each day what we want it to be and not numb, because it doesn't go away. So, and it doesn't matter what type of numbing that is. It's going through it, and it's going to be okay.
I think for me, there's a few things that I've been working on where I've been not wanting to sit with it. And it's interestingly enough, it's kind of grief related, but I've been putting it off, not with alcohol or drugs, just putting it off, distracting with any other sort of method versus just actually kind of sitting and being like, okay, why are you avoiding this, sitting with this kind of feeling? And you know, whether that's just sitting and thinking about it or writing, I've been putting that off. And, you know, hearing from you guys today, and it's just a good reminder to be like, that's not how this works. You know, go ahead, sit down with it. It's going to be uncomfortable probably, but you'll come out on the other side. I don't know what the word is, stronger, better, feeling better.
I mean, we born, we live, we die, right? not to sound too crass about it, but that's the truth, right? And in all of that, there is emotion, all of it. And the more we run from the emotion, whatever it may be, the harder it's going to be. The sooner we embrace it, let me go this way. The sooner we embrace that emotion and hold it, painful as it might be, but as soon as say, okay, here it is, take it. It's kind of like taking a bite into your favorite fruit. You put it in your mouth, it might be tart, but you go, oh, dang, that was good, right? But and I don't, you know, it's a lemon, right? It's part of lemon. I don't know, but I think the sooner we embrace it, and it's hard because I've been through like a lot of numbing for many, many years, and then I had all of those emotions came up because you're going to process them anyway. Eventually, you have to. So just embrace it as part of life, and if you need support to do it, get the support because it's super important for your health all the way around. I think.
For sure.
Bring us home, Kori.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about, that, like, how do I be the most me, right? And from that, like, love other people. And if I'm experiencing even a really hard thing while I'm, you know, influenced by the substance that isn't me, then, you know, I'm not going through the process that I want to go through. So, you know, I've cheated myself out of it. So yeah, it's nothing really good comes from, you know, using drugs to mask all that.
I love that you said cheated.
Yeah.
I love that you said cheated because we do cheat ourselves, don't we?
Yep.
Good, bad, or indifferent, we cheat ourselves.
Totally.
Well, that was wonderful and therapeutic again for me. Thank you all. I needed to hear that conversation. You're the best.
Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.